Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? The NFL free agency window is coming up next month when the league year begins. We know that the opportunity for teams to franchise tag their free agents starts today. But I found this so interesting because with free agency around the bend, ESPN took a look at the best landing spot for the top 50 free agents. And there's some that I think would be really interesting to this audience. For example, they have Kirk Cousins as the third best free agent, and they name the best landing spot the Atlanta Falcons. As a Saints fan, I think that would be fascinating because I think that's a much more suitable fit for Zach Robinson when you consider Zach Robinson has been with the Rams where they've had Goff and Stafford and Baker. That seems like it would fit more than some of the other proposals we've seen, like a Justin Fields trade or drafting Jaden Daniels. That would make more sense, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, but we'll see. Couple of three LSU guys on the list. They got Danielle Hunter as the 8th best free agent in the entire NFL, and they project him to go as the best fit to the Rams. Patrick Queen and Devin White are on the list as well. Patrick Queen, they have his best fit the Denver Broncos, so heading out west to pair up with Sean Payton. And then one that would be just absolutely devastating for all of us here is Devin White, who, as bad as it was to see Devin White in a Tampa Bay uniform, it would be even worse to see Devin White in an Atlanta Falcons uniform, which is where ESPN projects Devin White. But there was one interesting one because of the top 50 free agents as they spell it out. Again, this is ESPN.com. They rank the top 50 free agents in the NFL, and they listed their best landing spot for the top 50. They have one of the top 50 going to New Orleans. And remember, the Saints historically they'll have one big ticket item. Like start a free agency, that first round, usually there's one big ticket item. Then when the market settles and the second wave of free agency comes, they kind of go by on the discount rack. This would be interesting. ESPN projects that Za'Darius Smith would be the best landing spot for the New Orleans Saints. So the New Orleans Saints would be the best landing spot for Za'Darius Smith. They say it'd probably be a one-year deal, but they like the fit, his pass rush, versatility. They could use him off the edge or inside as a stand-up defensive end or nose. 60 career sacks, had 5.5 this past year in Cleveland, and the Saints had a real issue rushing the passer. They were 28th in the NFL with just 34 sacks this past season. So it goes without saying, yes, the Saints need help rushing the passer. Maybe you get it in the draft or maybe you get it here in free agency. A quick note about Za'Darius Smith. If you remember, he started his college career at East Mississippi Community College and went to Kentucky. That's probably where a lot of us might remember him. He was a 4th-round pick of Baltimore and had a really good start to his career. He made the Pro Bowl 3 times. He made it 19 and 20, and then in 21 he had back surgery in Green Bay. And as a matter of fact, he played one game that year in 2021. He played the opener against the Saints when the Saints blew out the Packers in week 1. It was like 38-3. That was the only game Za'Darius Smith played in 2021. Came back in 2022 and made a Pro Bowl with Minnesota. And then this year in 2023, Minnesota traded him to Cleveland, and his production really fell off in Cleveland in 2023. He did have 5.5 sacks this last year, but relative to his Pro Bowl years, it was down. But he did prove in 2022, Za'Darius Smith did, that even after the back surgery, he could be a really productive player. He's made a Pro Bowl that year in a season with Minnesota. The question is, could he revert to that 2022 form in Dennis Allen's defense? And we have seen, obviously, really good edge rushers in this defense, from Cam Jordan and Trey Hendrickson. Carl Granderson has been a really productive player. So there is opportunity in this defense for guys like Za'Darius Smith. The question is, at 31 years old and having had back surgery a couple of years ago, how much more does he have in the tank? That's why it would make sense as a one-year deal. But then does it make sense for Za'Darius Smith to sign in New Orleans, or do you try to go to a contender? That's sort of the interesting thing. But the Saints have a need for an edge. Cam Jordan had 2 sacks last year. Let me say that again slowly for those that forgot. Cam Jordan had 2 sacks in 2022. 17 games, 2 sacks. That's his lowest total since his rookie year when he had 1. Now, Carl Granderson, you paid him last year, and he's proven to be a really good starter for you. But you drafted Isaiah Foskey sort of as that heir apparent, with an early second-round pick a year ago, and Foskey played in 10 games, was a healthy scratch for a lot of the year, played in 10 games and had 0 sacks on the season. So you hope Foskey, you get some return on that draft capital investment. You hope Granderson continues to perform. Maybe you get a little more out of Cam Jordan, but you are preparing for the inevitability of Cam Jordan's career ending and when that's going to happen. And listen, clearly you've invested a lot of draft capital in the secondary, and in particular at corner, where you've got Marshawn Lattimore, you've got Alontae Taylor, you got Paulson Adebo. You feel good about that spot. And Demario Davis is still playing at an all-pro level, and Pete Werner, as long as he's healthy, is a really good player as well. You went interior defensive line last year in free agency and got some good production out of Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders, and you drafted Brian Brzee. Your issue is on the edge. You feel really good about Carl Granderson, but it's the other side that's a problem in rotation. So maybe Za'Darius Smith makes sense. My only other thing, if you're not going to address edge rusher in free agency, then you almost have to do it with the 14th pick. And maybe that means a guy like Jared Verse. There's going to be edge rushers, but there's also, I think, a better opportunity that you have a top 10 caliber overall player in the draft on the offensive side available, just because of the run we're expecting on quarterbacks and receivers at the top of this draft, which is going to push offensive tackles and defensive players down in the draft. So there should be a lot of value for the Saints there at 14. Maybe it's draft. Maybe it's a guy like Za'Darius Smith, as ESPN.com suggests. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.